Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Miel Hebraica, and today I'm looking at Psalm 27, verse 4, a psalm of David. It's one of those psalms that defines his life and should be also great teaching for us as to what really defines our life. What is it that's important or central to how we think and how we define ourselves and who we are, what we do. I have to remember that David spent a lot of time in the Judean desert, escaping from Saul, hiding in caves and on mountaintops and so forth. And I gave him a lot of time to meditate as to what was important in his life. Where could he find comfort? Where could he find strength? Where could he find his life? And so Psalm 27 helps us with that. And we're up to here to verse 4. And the title of this meditation today is Living with God. How can we live with God, or how can God accompany us in life, or how can we get close to God? And so these are all good questions, and we're going to use this particular verse to answer them. One thing I ask from Jehovah, Me'et Yehovah, that is what I seek, and that I may dwell in the house of Jehovah all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of Jehovah and to inquire in his temple. Now, this is a fairly straight literal translation of what we have in the Hebrew, but the Hebrew as a language often has many more definitions of each word that we can work with, and so that's very much the case in this particular passage. We start with ahat, okay, central. What's first? Okay, one thing. Put the central point in my life. Okay, here it is. Ahat. Sha'alti, this is to ask or to seek or request. Okay. Ahat sha'alti me'et Yehovah, from Jehovah. This is from what I'm going to ask from Jehovah. Ota, and that is, what is that? Okay, Ota, which is Abakesh. I will seek, I will look for it. This is something I am going to dedicate my life to finding. I'm looking for it. So this is like a rhetorical question, okay? One thing I ask of the Lord, or that's what I'm going to, and so it sort of presents, I'm saying, what's important in my life? What is it that's central? What's ahat? Where do I start, okay? Ahat. What's number one? And here it is. Here's the, Shivti bebeit Yehovah kol yameh hai. Very similar, very parallel to a well-known passage at the end of Psalm 23. Here it is, Shivti bebeit Yehovah kol yameh hai, and there it is, Shivti bebeit Yehovah aroch yamim, long days. And here's all the days of my life. So that I dwell, that I live in the house of Jehovah all the days of my life. Okay, hi, that's a chet yod, life, and then you have the possessive pronoun at the end here, my life. Okay, all the days of my life. Shifti is a very well known root, but it also appears as a root of a number of other words as well. One of the more what I call kind of a shared root or family of roots. We begin, of course, with Shin Bet, and that is and the root here, which would be understood, you look it up in the lexicon, it's going to be Yashav, okay, to live in, or to live there, dwell, to inhabit. To inhabit, Shifti, so that's the first person singular suffix form of the verb here, that I would live. Incidentally, this one then also has Shin Bet Tau, and it's very much the root of Shabbat. So there's living, and then there's also Shabbat in the middle of this thing as well. The two things are happening there. And in English, we are going to have to choose one or the other, and actually the best choice is to dwell. But in Hebrew, both conditions are suggested in the verb. So that's one of the things of studying Hebrew. You see the richness of what each word presents us here. So Shifti bebeit Yehovah, in the house of Jehovah, kol yamei hai. We have to remember that during the time of David, when he became king, the ark was still at Kiryat Jearim, and in fact, it was stuck at somebody's house, Obed Edom, servant of Edom. Very interesting name, very interesting place. And so there wasn't any Bebeit Yehovah. There wasn't any place really for the house of God at that point, and that's was one of the aspirations of David, to build a house of the Lord over there in Jehovah and in Jerusalem, but it just really couldn't happen. He did manage to get the ark moved to Jerusalem. Of course, that was a very joyful moment for him. Everything that we see here really was is a hope, is something that David would look forward to having. It isn't that he was able to accomplish it right there. In fact, this is very important here. Even though we can build a house of God like a church building, it's still just simply representative of something that's still before us. So something always you have to remember of that. We're going to get into the New Testament in a little bit here, defining that a little closer for us. So stick through to the end of the meditation, and we'll see something, a very interesting connection with the New Testament. So, Shifti, that I will dwell, that I would live, that I would rest, Bebeit Yehovah, kol yamei hai, all the days of my life, or long days, if you're going to look at Psalm 23, the last verse there. Lehazot be noam Yehovah, in order to gaze. Now, Hazan is a vision that a prophet would have. In fact, the prophet's known as a Hazan. Okay, so it's something that the prophet can see. So it's here's to gaze, but it's actually to have a prophetic vision of something that I would know about Yehovah here. And the thing that he wants to see here is Be Noam. This is the same root that's used for Naomi in the story of Ruth, the pleasant one, the kind one, and not so much beauty there in the book of Ruth, but here it's translated as beauty, but it is much further than that. It's the whole matter of how the Lord treats us, how it's his how he's pleasant with us, how he's kind to us, how he loves us. That's what defines the beauty of Jehovah. It isn't just something very artistic or anything like that. It's something very much event-shaped as to how Jehovah treats us. And so that's what David wants to see. That's what he wants to define in his life as important for him. He wants that prophetic vision of how the Lord has been very nice to him, has protected him through all the times he's running from cave to hilltop in the Judean desert. The Lord most certainly has been kind to him through all those times when he had such a terrible stress, escaping his enemies. So, Bet Noam Yehovah levaker behekalo, and so this is to inquire, baker, and this is very much parallel to the bakesh here. They're both bet kof roots. Kof is something you hang on to. So this is something he wants to hang on to find, and this is something he wants to hang on to inquire about. When you want to define your life, you want to know where to look and who to ask, who's the best counselor for your life. And so you would inquire. Now, of course, for us, to inquire of the Lord means study of the Scripture, also asking mature Christians around us what we should be doing. And so, lebaker, that's to be inquiring, to ask for. Behekalo, this is in his temple. Originally, this was simply the middle part of the temple. This Beit is the house of the Lord, and Hekalo is a portion of that house, Hekalo, in his temple. So very, very beautiful passage here of what David was seeking for, what defines his life. He wants to get close to God. He wants to approach God. And how he's going to do that? He's going to do that by looking for the house of the Lord. And like I said, we can see that in an anticipated form on what is on this earth, but most certainly the heavenly home is our final destination. So, New Testament has a very interesting way of defining the sanctuary, defining the temple. What is it? In the ancient times, of course, everybody debated. Samaritans and Jews were always at each other saying, "Oh no, the temple has to be in Jerusalem. Oh no, the temple has to be in Samaria. Where is the temple?" And even to this day, yeah, in the Middle East, where does God reside? Does he reside at Mecca? Does he reside at Jerusalem? Where does God reside? New Testament Christians define that in a very interesting way, and let's see how that's defined now for us from the New Testament. Ephesians 2:19 through 22, and so Paul is writing to the church at Ephesus, church surrounded by a lot of paganism, smack in the middle of people who worshipped Artemis. He says, "Oh, so then you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but your fellow citizens with the saints and members of God's household, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the cornerstone." A building. Yes, not a building made of a brick and mortar. This building is made of people. Okay? The whole building being put together by him, that is by Jesus Christ, grows into a holy sanctuary, a place in which we can find comfort, in which we can gather together, in which we can seek the face of Jehovah. It's a holy sanctuary in the Lord, in Jehovah, and you also are being built together for God's dwelling in the Spirit. And so, where are we going to find Jehovah? We're going to find Jehovah in this sanctuary. This sanctuary, this is the household of believers. That's all those who have come together and are in worship of the Lord. And when we're together in that way, the Holy Spirit comes among us. We saw that at Pentecost, and it's one great characteristic of the Christian church even to this day. God lives within his church and within the hearts of all his people. And so, where do we find the house of the Lord? Where do we find his sanctuary? We find it in the church as it gathers together and worships him and seeks his face, seeks to define its life in relationship to God, and that is, as I said, also anticipation of living with the Lord in the heavenly place. So may God bless, may God strengthen you in this day, and may God give you a place to look forward for living forever. May God bless. Until the next time.